Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Metaphysical Source TV. I'm your host, Johnny Enoch, and today we are joined by my dear friend and mentor, Jordan Maxwell, who's a self proclaimed ordinary man in pursuit of extraordinary knowledge. We're talking about a legend here, someone who's been immersed in the realm of the occult, secret societies, and hidden symbols for over 54 years. And for those of you who don't know, just in case you've been living under a rock, Jordan was one of the first people to bring David Icke to America. He was business partners with the great Zecharia Sitchin, and he's been well known in Hollywood and the motion picture industry. Recently, I had the wonderful opportunity of flying out to Los Angeles and spending time with my friend Jordan around Burbank and the Hollywood sign, eating dinner together and having the best Italian food I've ever tried in my life. And he shared fascinating and incredible stories with me about all kinds of arcane subjects and hidden mysteries. But the highlight of what he told me was the supernatural events he has experienced in his life. Jordan has traveled all over the world, and he's been in the company of extraordinary people, some of them from royalty, some of them not from this world. And well, I thought all of you would very much enjoy hearing about these stories. So, on top of all the arcane and mysterious topics we want to bring to you guys, we're going to focus on Jordan's 36 peak supernatural experiences in this series. So, without further ado, Jordan, are you ready to share with us one of your 36 peak experiences?
Well, I think so. I appreciate your kind introduction. I've said it before, and I think it bears saying it again that I don't consider myself to be very important. I'm just an ordinary man pursuing extraordinary knowledge. I'm fascinated, as I have always been, even as a child. I was absolutely captivated and fascinated by the occult world, all the unseen things which are happening on the earth that we don't know anything about. So I've always been, interested in all the subjects that most people don't even know exist. So that's where we are today.
Fascinating. Now, to start these episodes off, there's one of these experiences that always stands out to me that I think everyone's going to love to hear about, and it's I believe it was when you were 19 years old, was it that you met a very special girlfriend, wasn't it?
Yep, sure was. Uh, when I was 19 years old, I arrived in Los Angeles. I was originally born and raised in Florida, Northwest Florida, in Pensacola, which is very near the Alabama-Florida state lines, right there on the Gulf of Mexico. And so at 19 years old, uh, early 19, I left home and ended up in Los Angeles. I had no idea in the world where I was going. I just roamed around and ended up in Los Angeles as a 19-year-old stupid kid, having no idea where I was, what I was doing, just out to see the world, see where I can see where I'm good, what I'm going to do. And so I ended up in Los Angeles and ended up here on a Friday night in downtown Los Angeles with $9 in my pocket. That's all I had in the world was $9, and I'm in a big city, and I had no idea what I'm doing or where I was. I knew I was in Los Angeles. I knew the ocean was not that far away, but outside of that, I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know why I'm here. And so the guy who was driving the bus, because I had to catch a bus from Riverside into Los Angeles, and so I got out the bus. He's the driver. I looked at Los Angeles and I said, "No, I'm not staying here. That's for sure." So I asked him. I said, "Where do people live in this town?" And he said, "Well, a lot of people live out in the valley." I said, "What are you talking about, valley?" He said, "Well, the San Fernando Valley." I said, "Well, where is it?" And he said, "Well, I'm going there. Get back on the bus and I'll take you." So I did. Got back on the bus and it was about midnight. And so I ended up in the valley about 1 o'clock in the morning. I had no place to go. I didn't know where I was. I am in the valley, whatever that is. I'm in Los Angeles, but I don't know what I'm doing. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I only got $9 in my pocket, and that's it. And so I ended up having to find a place to sleep, which I did. And I don't know if I should get into all the ruddy details, but I can imagine a kid, 19 years old, not knowing anybody, no one. I didn't even know where I was exactly. But as it turns out, I found a place to live and got a job, and happily, this great spirit, whatever the great spirit is that people call God, I guess God was watching over me because I got a job pretty quick, and found a nice place to live, got a room, and so I was happy with the way things were going. And so back then, this is 1959. We're talking 54 years ago, and so I'm in North Hollywood, which is about maybe 10 miles north of the famous city of Hollywood. Well, I'm out in North Hollywood. There's a mountain range in between. So I'm not in Hollywood. I'm in North Hollywood, but that's where all the action is. That's where all the big studios are, all the big motion picture and television studios. A lot of them are in Hollywood, but there's a whole lot of them out here in the valley, in North Hollywood and Burbank. So anyway, I ended up out here, got a job, and so back then it wasn't very, as you can well imagine, some 54 years ago out here in Los Angeles, it wasn't very built up. And so I lived about 2 blocks from downtown, and in a little room I had 2 blocks from downtown. And so one morning I went down on Saturday morning. I went downtown, have breakfast, and there was a little restaurant right in downtown. And so I went in, but the place was totally crowded. Uh, and so there's only one chair available, and it was at the counter. So I sat down at the counter, and there was a girl sitting next to me. I'm 19. She was probably 17 or 18, something like that. Um, And so we started talking, and come to find out, she lived about 4 blocks from town, in the same area I was, and I lived 2 blocks from town. So we started. So after breakfast, we took a walk around town, just her and I. And I liked her; she liked me, so we got along great. And so when we walked home, 1959, when we walked home. I got home first, of course, because I only lived 2 blocks from town. She lived 4. So she had another 2 blocks to go. So she knew where I lived, but I didn't know where she lived. So every Saturday and sometimes Sundays, I would end up downtown having breakfast on Saturday morning. Then she would be there too. And we started hanging out together. Uh, and so when we walk home again, she knew where I lived, and I knew she was about 2 blocks from me, but I'd never been there with her yet. And so one night, it was a Friday night, she came over to my place about 9 o'clock in the evening. And I do remember so very vividly this because it was such an incredible event. She said to me, "My dad wants to talk to you." And of course, my thought was, I have nothing to talk to your father about at all, not me. And she said, "No, my father is very important and very interesting man, and he's got something to tell you." And so I thought, that sounds interesting. He doesn't even know me, that he should have something to tell me. So I said, okay. So I went with her, and for the first time now, I'm going to where she lived, which is only about 2 blocks from me. And as I was walking up to the front into the yard with her, 9 o'clock at night, he happened to be coming out of the front door just by chance. And when he saw the two of us, the moment I saw him, I got a, for lack of a better term, a spiritual reaction. My spirit was moved. It's hard to explain, but I got this strange feeling that came over me that I was in the presence of something that was not of this world. And I didn't know how to explain it to myself. I didn't know exactly what I'm talking about or thinking, but I knew there's something strange about this man. I'm feeling it. I get, the hair was raising up on the back of my neck involuntarily. So my spirit was reacting to his spirit. And he looked at me and motioned for us to come in, and the thing that struck me about him immediately, the very first thing that hit me about him was that he was not moving like a normal human. I could tell that he was very calculating on the way on his demeanor. He was very calculating. In other words, normally when people are people, but this guy, no, the way he moved, the way he looked at me, the way you could tell he knows exactly what he's doing. He's in control of himself all the time. He knows exactly what he's doing. Just I got that gut feeling, and so but there was something about him that was absolutely fascinating, because my gut feeling was, this is not a normal man. And whatever it was, it was kind of scary, or a cultic kind of feeling, but it was also fascinating. I loved it. And so we went in, my girlfriend and I, and she has a younger sister, about 10 years old. So the two girls sat on the floor, and the mother was in the kitchen. And so he and I sat on a sofa. He sat on one of the sofa, and I sat on the other. And the two girls are sitting on the floor, my girlfriend and her sister. And so so I knew there's something about him, but I'm fascinated. And so he realized that I was very, challenged by his presence. So he started talking to me about things that I could relate to. He asked me, "How do you like your job?" and how are you? How do you like California? And et cetera, et cetera. And my daughter said that she met you at the restaurant, et cetera, et cetera. And so I felt a lot better, because now at least he's talking about normal human things that I can relate to. So I was beginning to let my guard down a little bit. And so after we're sitting and talking about small stuff, and then he says to me, after a few minutes, he says, "Remember back when you were 8 years old, back in Florida, and remember how your father built a new back porch under your house? The back porch was falling apart, so he built a new one, and your uncle helped him. And remember, he used green lumber, and it smelled funny because the lumber was green, and he built a new back porch. Remember that?" And that scared me. I was already kind of tense anyway about him, but that took me by surprise and shocked me. And I didn't want to show tears in front of my girlfriend, but I was scared. It really did scare me. And I thought to myself, who in the hell is this? How would he know that? And he said, "Remember how you were about 8 years old, and one night you were supposed to be sleeping, but you got up and you went out on the back porch. Remember that?" And he says, "And the moon was full. It was a full moon. And you sat on the back porch and you picked the wood with your fingers. You were picking some of the wood with your fingers, peeling some of the wood, and was smelling it. You pick up a little piece of wood with your fingernail, and you were smelling it because it smelled funny at night, the green lumber. And you picked your teeth with it. Remember that? And that was even more scarier. And I didn't know how to handle this. It was something I've never, never would have had to deal with before. Somebody like this that knew what I did. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, did you do that or didn't you? Did you get up out of bed? Did you go out in the back porch? And your dad built a new back porch?" And I just nodded, "Yes, I did that." And he said, "Yeah, I know you did that." And he said, "You talked to God, didn't you? When you were sitting on the back porch with that piece of, that little splinter of wood, you looked up at the moon, didn't you? And you talked to God, didn't you?" And I nodded, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Well, how would I know that? How would I know that?" And I said, "I don't know how you know that." And he said, "Well, I know that because we were there. We were watching you." And I said, "There was nobody around." He said, "That's right. We saw you. You didn't see us." And he says, "And if I wasn't there, how would I know all the things you did? Was I correct on what I said?" I said, "Yeah, you're right." And he said, "Well, what did you say to God?" I remembered the prayer. Do you remember what you said to God? And I didn't say anything. I just looked at him. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what you said. You sat on the back porch looking at the full moon, about 8 years old, and you said to God that you wanted to do something really important with your life. You wanted your life to have a meaning and do something important with your life. Is that what you said?" And I nodded, "Yeah, that's what I said." And he said, "Well, uh, why did you come to California? Why are you here?" And I said, "I don't know why I'm here. I just had to come." And he said, "That's right. We brought you here. We can put you anywhere we want on the earth at any time. We brought you here because you did ask God to let you do something, didn't you?" And I said, "Yes." "Well, then we're going to give you something to do." And I said, "Who are you talking about?" And he said, "It's us. You talked to God and we heard you. So we're going to give you something to do. And after all, you did ask." So, so then he said, "You have always been interested in secrets and all kinds of strange secrets and all sorts of strange things that most people are not attracted to at all. You are. And you're very interested in UFOs and aliens and that kind of thing, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, because I am." And he said, "Yeah, we know. We've been watching you. We know what your interests are." And he said, "Would you like to see some UFOs up close tonight?" And I said, "Yes, I would love to." And the way he said it, he said, "Well, that much I can do for you. I can do that." It implied I can do a lot of things, but I'm not supposed to. But that I can do for you. So he said, "Come with me." And the girls got up. Both of the girls got up, and myself and the father, and we walked out in the front yard, maybe about 11 o'clock at night. And there's the four of us, he and I and the two girls. And the mother, I still haven't seen. She was in the house somewhere. And so he looks up into the sky. It's a beautiful night, 1959, 54 years ago, North Hollywood. I'm a 19-year-old kid with my girlfriend at her home. And her father looks up into the sky and starts inaudibly talking. His mouth is moving as if he's talking to someone, but you can't hear him. And I'm watching him, and then he turns to me and he says, "They said they'll be here in about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, they'll be here. They're coming from the Griffith Park, which was southeast of North Hollywood, southeast about, I don't know, 10 or 15 miles." And so he pointed over there, southeast to the mountain range, and he said, "They'll be coming from over the mountain, over that area in about 2 or 3 minutes." And I said, "Who?" He said, "Us. We're here. Don't you understand?" And I said, no, I'm not understanding anything. I don't understand what you're saying and who you are. And he said, well, you'll figure it out later on. So then maybe 2 or 3 minutes later, sure enough, three beautiful, glowing disc-shaped, saucer-shaped, disc-shaped things, saucer-shaped craft came from the southeast, exactly where he had pointed to. They came over, making no sound whatsoever, period. And they all three were almost, I would say not quite, but almost the size of a full moon. They were about half the size of a full moon. So we're not talking about lights in the sky. No, we're talking about almost the size of a full moon. And there's three of them flying in a triangle, formation. And the three of them came over very quiet, making no sound at all. They were absolutely shockingly beautiful because they were radiating the bottoms of these saucer-shaped things. It's very interesting. I got something to tell you about this. First of all, the bottoms of these saucer-shaped things, whatever they were, was cut into pieces like a pie, 6 or 8 pieces, and each slice of the pie was a different color. But the thing that really startled me was the color was laser colors. And back in 1959, I had no idea what a laser was. I don't know if anybody else did. But the colors were laser colors. In what I'm saying is that the oranges, the greens, the blues, the purples was like a pie cut into 6 or 8 slices. Each slice is a different color, and they're circulating, but not so fast as to blend the colors. You can see the different colors, and they're circulating slowly, but they were brilliant colors, astoundingly brilliant colors, all three of them. And as those colors were circulating on all three of those objects, I was standing there amazed at the beauty of these beautiful, glowing, multicolored, disc-shaped things making no sound. And he's looking up at them, and then I looked down, and my girlfriend and her sister and the father were looking at me. Because I'm fascinated, and then I look down, and they're looking at me. And as if to say, how do you like that? You like that? And I said, who are you? And what is this I'm seeing? They are beautiful. And he said, yes, they are pretty, aren't they? And I said, no, they are beautiful. They're gorgeous. Who is this? What are they? And he said, that's us. We're here. We brought you to California. You've asked God to let you do something, so we're going to let you do something. And he says, so then he looks up and he starts talking again inaudibly. And he said, they said that they're leaving now, but they will see you later, but they're leaving now. And they did. They began to move slowly, and they went north, and we watched them until they crossed over the mountains of the north, and then they're gone. That was it. And so we went inside and sat down, and I was shaking. I was scared. I was nervous. I was bewildered, but I was fascinated. It just blew my mind. A strange man that knows so much about me can walk out and talk to the sky, and UFOs show up. And who is this man that can do these things? And so I was just amazed. So afterwards, we sat then for a little bit longer, and I said, who are you? And what did I see tonight? And he said, look it, you asked God to let you do something. So we brought you out here to prepare you so that you can do something. We have something for you to do, but it will not, he said to me, it will not happen. What we have for you to do will not happen until the very last part of your life. So you've got a whole life to live right now first, but we have something for you to do, and it won't happen to the very last part of your life. And when that time comes, and it will come, and when it does, you will know. You will understand, and you will know what you have to do. But until that time, we will lead you so that you will meet who you're supposed to meet. You will learn what you're supposed to learn, and we will protect you and guide you and show you what it is you're supposed to learn. And you will live a normal life, but we will be there to, guide your life. And when we're ready, we'll let you know what you have to do. And by the time you reach that point in your life, in the last years of your life, you will know what you have to do for us. And so he says, so tonight I'm starting you on your journey to a new life. And I want you to read a book. I'm going to give you a book, and I want you to read it. And this will start you on your journey. And so he did. He went over and picked up a book and brought it to me, and it was called The Complete Works of Charles Fort. The Complete Works of Charles Fort you can still get in bookstores today, probably on the web as an ebook for free, but get it. It's a phenomenally fascinating book of nonfiction book about all the strange things that have happened in the world that there is no explanation for. This is what Charles Fort was famous for. His books, he wrote 3 of them, but today they're all 3 in one book. It's called The Complete Works of Charles Fort, F-O-R-T. What Charles Fort did was nothing short of absolutely fantastic. He searched the libraries of the world, especially in New York Library, to find all of the strangest phenomena which has happened on this earth that no one has an explanation for. No one can explain the phenomena that he documents. And what makes his book so important is he documents every paragraph with telling you who wrote the article, what paper it was in, what magazine, who the author was, what page it was on, and how that particular article in that paragraph connects to another article that he read earlier or to another incident that happened earlier. And so it's a huge book filled with strange stuff that has actually, in fact, happened on the earth that nobody can explain. And it's a mind trip reading that thing for the first time, seeing how many strange things have happened, are happening now, that humans have no explanation for, so therefore they don't even talk about it. Scientists do not talk about the kind of things Charles Fort writes about. They do not look at it. They do not talk about it for a very good reason. Not because it's bull and it's nonsense. No, it's because how brilliant and wonderful our scientists are, they don't know how to explain the unexplainable. There are things in that book that are recorded in history and recorded in newspapers, magazines, documented things which happen that nobody can explain. So so he opened the book and began to read a paragraph. And I know now he knew exactly what he was doing. It appeared at the time that he was opening the book indiscriminately to read something. No, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was not of this world, in my opinion. He knew exactly what he was doing. He opened the book and read a paragraph that caught my attention. He knew how to catch my attention, what I would be interested in. And he just opened it up, supposedly indiscriminately, and read something that blew me away. And then he said, and then he just indiscriminately picked up another page, opened up another page, and read another paragraph. And that was even better. That even blew my mind more. And so he whet my appetite right then and there. I want that book. I want to go through that book. That's strange stuff. And so I took that book and went home and kept it for a long time. You can still find the book today. It's still a bestseller in bookstores today. Complete Works of Charles Fort. Get it. It's a trip because it's all true. It's all documented true things which have happened on this earth that defies anyone to explain, that nobody has an explanation for. Which the idea of him giving that to me was very obvious. He wanted to, at 19 years old, to make me aware that there is so much going on this earth that humans cannot explain. So don't think that your world is all cozy and you can explain everything, because the whole world is filled with things that you don't even know exist. Period. So when you think that you've got it all nailed down and you went to college and got your degree, you don't know from nothing. Unless you can tackle things which have happened on this earth that are highly documented, and unless you can intellectually understand and explain how these things have happened, then that tells me, I don't care how many degrees you have and who you think you are, you don't have it yet. You don't have it yet. You're not as smart as you think you are. And so there's all kinds of strange things in that book that will just blow your mind. So he got me started, and that was a strange experience. And so then after that, for a couple of months, maybe 6 weeks, on Saturdays, I'd go over to their house to see my girlfriend, and we would go, he and I and the mother and the two girls and myself, we would take off and we would drive up to Palmdale. Well, back in 1959, Palmdale was desolate. There's just a desert, just a few little houses out there. But Lockheed and Martin Marietta and all those big military contractors were out there working on, rockets and space shuttles and whatever else they were working on, all that top secret stuff for the military. That was out in Palmdale, still is today. That's highly military dark stuff going on. Lockheed Skunk Works, Martin Marietta Aviation, secret technology going on out there in Palmdale. But this was back in 1959. They were out there then, but they were just about the only thing out there then. And we would go out on, say, Saturday mornings, about 50 miles north of Los Angeles, and we'd go out in the desert. The girls, myself and his wife, the girls would take off with the mother and wander around picking up rocks and whatever. He would take me to mounds that had holes in them that were mines. And some of them were mines because they had tracks, and we walked down inside the mines, and he would tell me about what happened to the people there and how many people died at this mines. And then other times we would go to mounds that had holes that you could walk through. They were high enough that you could walk through and walk down into these holes in the ground. And he would tell me, I remember distinctly one time he said we were walking down this hole, and this looked like a mining hole, but there was no tracks there. And he stopped and he said, "This is as far as we can go. We can't go any further." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Well, because there are aliens here. They're down there, and you will be safe as long as you're with me, and I'm safe as long as I don't go any further. I wanted you to see that there are aliens here, and they live down here, but we're not going to go see them, believe me. And we're all right now, but if we go any further, we'll be in trouble. So I think it's time that we leave." So we turned around and left and came back up. So he was absolutely a mind trip being in his company, all the strange things he would tell me. And then one day I went over to the house on a Saturday morning, and he was gone. The house was vacated, empty, the doors, windows, everything was wide open. Everything was gone. My girlfriend, the family, everything. And I never saw them ever again. They didn't come to tell me they were leaving. They didn't tell me. They didn't let me know. They just were gone, period. And so that was my extreme, fascinating journey into the occult world, meeting him. And he did, in fact, start me on my journey, because from that day on, I was hooked on reading and studying all of the stuff that people don't even know exists. This was not, incidentally, as I said, in '59 when I was 19, this was not when I started on my spiritual journey. No, I started on my spiritual journey back when I was 7 and 8 years old, going out of body. I went out of body when I was 7 years old. I've had strange entities and all kinds of strange entities, as the best I can come up with, coming into my bedroom at night, seeing aliens at night by my window. I mean, as a little kid, I pulled my bed up. 8 years old, I pulled my bed up next to the window because I'm in Florida, so it's very tropical and very hot and humid at night. And so I pulled my bed up next to the window with the screen, and so I could look out at night. I could lay there in bed, look out at the stars at night, and then I'd fall asleep. But every now and then there were sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night quickly. I'd wake up because I felt something was in the room, and I'd wake up quickly. And as soon as I woke up, the moment I woke up, I saw someone on the other side of the screen looking at me. But they moved so quickly. They moved. The moment I moved and opened my eyes, they were gone. But not so quick that I didn't see them. I saw somebody looking at me, just outside, of my house, and but they were gone instantly. And so I would jump up as a little kid. I'd jump up quickly, open the screen, and the moon was full. Many nights there would be a full moon. My dog was out in the yard. You could see everything very clearly. The full moon, very bright. I could see no one, and the dog did not bark. He didn't see anyone, but there was somebody there. I saw them just in a split second. I saw them when I woke up. So that was when I was 7 and 8 years old. I began having extraordinary experiences at 7, 8, and 9 years old that would blew my mind. I woke up one night. Give you an example. I woke up one night when I was about 8 years old, 9, and I woke up and I was about 5 miles from my home. And I was freezing to death. I remember freezing cold, and I had on just my pajamas. As a little 8-year-old kid, I had on my pajamas, and I was absolutely freezing. Um, and I was barefooted, and I was standing on a bridge that it was a concrete overpass with train tracks beneath it, and it was on the west side of town, about maybe 4 miles from where I lived. About midnight, and I woke up and I'm standing on this bridge, this concrete bridge, in this little Mickey Mouse town of Pensacola. At probably 11 o'clock at 12 o'clock at night, and I was freezing cold, and I was standing between the pylons of the bridge because the wind chill was so cold. If I stood where the wind was blowing, it was twice as cold. And so I stood inside the big I-beams of the bridge, which at least got me out of the wind chill. And but I was freezing cold, wondering how I got here. How I woke up and I'm on a bridge 4 miles from home. And I remember distinctly thinking, if I ran to my grandmother's house, it would take me about 20 minutes. But at this hour of the night, I would scare her to death if I knocked on the door, my grandmother's home. What am I going to tell her? I could go a little bit further and go to my uncle, my dad's brother's house, on the other side of the bridge, about a half a mile. But what am I going to tell him? I'm in my pajamas. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and I want to go home. And what would I tell my grandmother? I'd probably shock her. And so I didn't know what to do. And so all of a sudden, I heard a car speeding. And I looked out from around the I-beam to see the car speeding, and of course I'm up on an overpass. So I'm looking down on the city, and I could see this car was running red lights, and it was totally just running red lights, and but it's such a small town, nobody's around who would know. Well, I knew because I was watching them running red lights. As they shot up onto the overpass, they shot past me, and I saw them very clearly. The two girls in the back seat, the two guys in the front seat, they were high schoolers. I knew them, they knew me. My family knew them. And as the car shot by me, the boys gave me the finger, and the girls waved at me, and I waved at them. And they shot by, and I thought, I was wondering, what are you talking about? They waved at me. Doesn't it seem strange that you'd see me in my pajamas at at 12 midnight on this bridge, and you just waved at me? And I'm about as stupid as you are. I waved back. And so I watched them as they went down the other side of the overpass, and they blew a tire. And they blew a tire on the passenger's side and lost control of the car. And the car sped out of control sideways and went up over the curve and into a parking lot of a restaurant and an all-night cafe. And it slid, and I was standing there freezing in my pajamas watching this. And I saw the car blow the tire. I saw it lose control. And I saw it crash into the front of the coffee shop. Even at 8 years old, I had the presence of mind to realize the severity of what I have just witnessed. I knew, even as an 8-year-old, I knew this was a terrible accident. And I started crying because I knew how terrible the accident was. And I started crying, but I started to run. And I ran across the bridge to the other side because the restaurant was on the other side, down at the bottom on the other side. So I ran across, and I remember as I was running down toward the restaurant, toward the coffee shop, to see if I could help anyone. And I ran across the gravel, and it was at that point I realized I had no shoes. I was barefooted because the rocks were killing my feet. And I remember so distinctly that I ran halfway across the parking lot before it dawned on me that my feet are killing me because of the rocks I'm running on. And I remember the thought came to me, you've got the rest of the way to go either way. If you run back to the sidewalk, you still got to run over gravel. Or you can run to the restaurant, you're still going to run over gravel. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm already halfway there, and instantly I thought, well, keep running, stupid. As you get off the gravel. So I did, and I ran to the front of the coffee shop. I saw the horrible accident, the chaos, which people were screaming and crying, and there was you can imagine a car speeding out of control and crashing to the front of an all-night coffee shop, and it was horrible. It was glass everywhere, people screaming, and I ran in, and I saw, and for the moment I remember looking around to see who I could help, because even at 8 years old I realized some people are already, they're already dead. Don't waste your time. Look and see who you can help. And then I saw one man sitting there motioning for me to come over. He was sitting there in blood, but I started to go to him, and then I noticed there was glass all over the floor. And now I have to be careful because there's glass on the floor, but I want to go to help people. But I'm barefooted, and there's glass all over the floor. And so I ran over to him best I could and helped him, pulled him. I got him from the back of his collar and his shirt and pulled him. And he helped by pushing himself with his hands, pushing himself as I was trying to drag him over out of the blood, and so I could put him up against the wall so he could lean up against the wall. Then I looked up and I looked around to see who else I could help, and all of a sudden I woke up in bed and I was screaming. I was crying, and because I was totally ballistic. I was crying uncontrollably and screaming. And of course, my mom and dad came in. My brother wasn't even alive then. Uh, he was born 8 years after me, so I was like 8 years old. And I was crying and totally ballistic. And my mom and dad calmed me down and sat down with me until I finally calmed down. And I told them what I had seen, that I was on the bridge. The boys and the girls, they knew the families. And I told them what happened in the coffee shop and how I ran down, etc., etc. And so that was it. I finally got back to sleep. My mom and dad assured me it was all a bad dream and went back to sleep. The next morning when I got up, I came in the kitchen. My dad was already gone for work, and my mom was sitting there looking at the newspaper, having a cup of tea, and she looked at me very strange, and I knew there was something wrong. I know my mother, and when she gets that strange look, that means something's wrong. And I said to her, "What's wrong, Mom?" And she said, "Look at this." And she turns the paper around. On the front page, everything I said, there it was. The family, the boys, the car, the photographs, the pictures, everything. What I had told them the night before was in the paper. I was there. I saw it. I physically felt pulling the man. I physically felt it when I was running across the gravel. I was there. I saw it. And I was 8 years old. And so I don't know how to explain that. All I know is I was there and I saw it. And so today, if I tell people this experience, most people will think, here's a typical galoot dimwit talking about some silly, crazy stuff. That's the Jordan Maxwell crazy stuff. And I'm saying, yeah, well, if it's true, then this tells me something about human life that I needed to know at 8 years old that you don't need to know at 65 years old. You don't need to know. All you need to do is go watch your ball game and drink your beer and pay your taxes and live your own little humding life that you live. But me at 8 years old, I was already pretty well aware this is a strange world we live in. That is not what you think it is. The earth you live on is not what you think it is. Life is not as convenient and cozy as you think it is. There are strange things happening on this earth that you have no idea in the world. And I don't care how many degrees you have and how supposedly intelligent you are, you don't have it yet. Unless and until you have evolved spiritually enough to understand you don't know from nothing. You better go out into the world and have an open mind, because your mind is like a parachute. It don't work if it ain't open. So you need to open your mind to look at the things which have happened. And if you want some ideas, go get the book, The Complete Works of Charles Fort. Read that stuff. And all of it is documented, and nobody can explain it. Nobody. So that's the kind of thing I loved at 8 years old. I was already going out of body, seeing things having all kinds of experiences, otherworld experiences, seeing aliens. So, like I said, just meeting my girlfriend's father when I was 19, that was a mind trip. But I was already well on my way to being the kind of person that I am today. At 8 years old, I loved the dark stuff. It tells me things about life that other people don't even know exist. That's why when I today am talking with audiences and groups like talking to Christian groups, they have their whole idea about everything is all tucked away. They have all the answers to everything. And I'm saying, boy, if you had a brain, you would be dangerous. You have no idea in the world what is going on this earth. You have no idea where your religions have come from. You have no concept that you've ever entertained as to where the symbols and emblems that you see around you, the governments, agencies, coats of arms, national coats of arms, symbols, emblems, magical symbols, secret societies, occult orders, child sacrifice, aliens. All of this is real, legitimate stuff. And yet the world would love to put it all down as a bunch of silly fantasies that people who are ill-adjusted believe in all these little silly fairy tales. Well, I got news for you. The world that we live in is sick. It's mentally deranged and sick. We have become accustomed to rape, murder, drug addiction, killing, wars, violence, destruction of children, their families, raping and plundering around the world with drug addiction, criminality. Our civilization is crumbling. And the main reason why is because we have, as humans, we have lost our souls. We are a soulless civilization. We do not take time to think about and reflect upon the dark stuff that really matters. When you talk about God, God is simply dog spelled backwards. When you talk about spirituality, what are you talking about? One of my teachers many years ago said to me, define your terms. When you talk about something, define what you're talking about. So if you're talking about God, maybe my idea of God is different from your idea of God. Maybe my idea of love is different from your idea of love. And maybe I view the opposite sex in a totally different way than you do. Maybe I am not from here. Maybe I don't relate to your human emotions. Maybe I'm seeing things you don't see. And so it's been fascinating for me as I've traveled around the world. I've been in Hollywood all my life. I've given lectures at the studios on occultism. I used to go to a lot of the motion picture and television studios at night when all the big shots have gone home. They didn't know I was there. And the working people, the camera people, lighting people, stage hands, they would invite me to come and give lectures at these studios at night. So I would go there with slide projector and hundreds of slides, and they'd set up some kind of a little Mickey Mouse screen on one of the sets in the studios at night. And I'd sit there and give lectures back in the late '60s, early '70s, all through the '70s into the '80s. I was giving lectures on Illuminati, secret societies, occultism, Knights Templars, religious secret societies, assassinations, especially symbols, emblems, national coats of arms, harlotry, seals, where flags come from, and then of course when John Kennedy was assassinated, the day he was assassinated, November 22nd, 1963, that morning, I was walking out that afternoon. Some friends of mine were coming by to pick me up to take me to a lecture I was doing in East Hollywood. I was doing a lecture in East Hollywood for a church group of about 40 people that wanted to hear me, because I used to do lectures back in 1960s, in little Mickey Mouse bookstores and libraries and old ladies clubs and all these little venues. But I loved it. I just loved talking about things I'm interested in that nobody knows even exist. And so I was on my way down to East Hollywood to speak to a Christian group of about 40 people, and my subject was secret societies in world religion. And I was talking about the influence of the Knights Templars and the secret fraternal orders coming out of Europe, who have given us our religions. Who is it that gave us Islam? Where did Judaism come from? Where did Christianity really come from? Who were the secret powers in Europe that were financing the wars, the world revolutionary wars, and the Knights Templars? And where did the international banking cartels come from? And what are the symbols at the Vatican? What do they mean? So I was giving lectures back in the late 60s, early 70s, all through the 80s in Hollywood, all around. So I got to be pretty famous in Hollywood and motion picture, community. And of course, I was doing a lot of radio interviews. People knew me, and I was doing little, seminars, etc. So I was well known in Hollywood some 40, 50 years ago. Today, with National Treasure and Da Vinci Code and the History Channel, Discovery Channel, TLC Channel, all of these different cable channels talking about the secret societies, the Illuminati, and the occultism and all the demonism and devil worship and all the occultism in Hollywood. All these subjects which all the kids are talking about today, the back of the dollar bill, the symbols, etc. And there must be 100 or more videos out there on the web, hundreds of them, on secret societies and the Knights Templars and the Federal Reserve and the Illuminati and the Vatican. All of that I was talking about back in 1959, 60s, 70s, and 80s in Hollywood. I was talking about all of that stuff, and in late 80s and start in the 90s, I began traveling professionally, began traveling around the world, and to be a guest speaker in different countries. That because my name was all over Hollywood, they were making movies based on my stuff. The writers in the motion picture industry, writers would talk to me and say, yeah, we were using you as kind of like a in the back of our minds when we were writing the script for this movie or that movie or this movie about the Knights Templars or whatever, or the Illuminati. We were thinking about you. Well, of course you think about me. I've been talking about this stuff before you were born. And so today, of course, like I said, today, lots of people are talking about all these strange subjects: the end of the world, the Illuminati, New World Order, Armageddon, and all that kind of stuff, and Bible prophecies. That's the kind of stuff I was talking about back in 59, 60, and 61, some 50 years ago. And so I'm fascinated with how much people today still don't know. There's incredible knowledge that's been around for a long time. You just haven't been told. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. But when you understand that there's a lot of things going on in this world that don't have nothing to do with the world that you live in. The things that are going on, like the wars and all the violence going on in the Middle East, is not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. There's something else going on. And when you talk to the guys at the top, then for the first time you realize, wow, now I see what's happening here. Now I see what's going on. because you don't know what's going on until you've been privy to hear the guys at the top explain it to you, what they're doing and how they're doing it and why. So I've been privy to be in the company of extraordinary people all my life and listening to them. Again, I would say I am not world's foremost authority on nothing. I am smart enough to know how much I don't know. And I'm totally sure that I haven't even scraped the surface, but I'll tell you one thing I do know is that the world is made up of things and phenomena and people that you have no idea in the world what's really going on. There are things in this world you cannot explain. Every day, phenomena is happening. Aliens, UFOs, underground bases, international banking cartels, religious frauds and lies and deception by governments, by religions, secret societies, fraternal orders, mafia, underworld. It's an incredible world of gangs and violence and money and religion and bloodshed and sex and drugs and rock and roll. It's an incredible world that we live in, and 99% of the people on the face of the earth have no idea in the world what's going on. They're just going with the flow and being eaten up by the civilization because they don't know how to protect themselves. The reason why is because they don't know what's going on to protect themselves. I've said this many times. People, and especially am I concerned about my own country and the U.S., but it's true for everyone. People, generally speaking, around the world do not have any power to do anything. They want things different. They know. They don't have to be an astronaut to figure it out. People know that what's going on is wrong. We should not be killing each other. We should not be involved in all these cults and craziness and raping and pillaging and stupidity and money grubbing, and all of this stuff is evil and wrong. And somebody has to do something about it. Well, nobody's ever done anything about it. No one's doing anything about it now, and no one ever will. It's the life that we live on this earth. But I've always said that people don't have the power to change anything. Why? Because knowledge is power. And the people have no knowledge. Even the Bible has God saying twice in the Bible, in the Old Testament, my people are dying from a lack of knowledge. My people are dying from a lack of knowledge. So that when you hear preachers and religious leaders, the clergy are an absolute disgrace, an incredible mockery before God and man on the earth. Are Christian preachers, Christian reverends, and especially TV preachers, is an unholy, dark, demonic depravity, which is going on the earth, calling itself religion, Christianity, Judaism, Islam. You better go back and wake up and get an open mind and start looking at the religions that are running this world. It's a hell of a story, and you need to wake up and find out that Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are not what you think it is. Somebody very, very powerful has put these religions together for a reason, and it's doing what they're supposed to do. This is I could go on for hours telling you about the secret societies out of Europe and Asia, the secret orders and secret groups of powerful people with lots of money who get together and finance cults, finance secret cults, the Jim Jones cult, all of these Christian cults, all these Jewish cults, and especially Islamic cults. Where are they getting their money? Who is leading them? Where are they getting their guns and their money? Where is all of this stuff coming from? Well, it's obviously being orchestrated by somebody. And when you begin to look at the history of the world that we live in, where we have been for the past 10,000 years of human history, where we are now, you don't want to know what's coming in the future. What is coming in the future for the human race, you have no idea in the world what's coming, and it's going to be frightening. What you have no idea in the world. I know I say that many times, but I'm trying to emphasize how evil the future is going to be.
But you've said before, people have said to you, "Hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel," and you've said, "Yeah, it's a train. You know, pay attention to look what's coming."
There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And I said, yeah, there's a train coming.
What? But that's one of the important things I think with your work though is to wake people up before it's too late. If there's a hope, their consciousness, the consciousness of humanity getting woken up and looking at what's happening is the beautiful part about it. And so that's why I think people really need to pay attention now and look at your work because people have tried to discredit great teachers. I mean, they've even tried to discredit your work before, but people can see the truth. Now, this is the exciting part about what we want to bring you guys out there that are watching. If you tune in every week now, what we're going to give you here, every week a new episode where we're going to show you some of this knowledge. And of course, on this Metaphysical Source TV, I'd like to feature every week here one of Jordan's experiences, which we're going to share with you and go into detail, as well as you're going to get some knowledge. However, where you can go for even more information, you can go to Jordan's website at thejordanmaxwellshow.com. And when you're there, don't forget to check out the recommended reading list or the book club and buy the titles in there where you can get books that have all sorts of great knowledge like the Companion Bible. And of course, today Jordan mentioned the complete works of Charles Fort, which are absolutely incredible. And if you want to hear more of this information, please do check out Jordan's work. And I'd like to remind you guys that Jordan doesn't have control of jordanmaxwell.com. That site has been stolen from him, which you can learn about on other segments that have been done, including Christmas with Jordan Maxwell, the other segment that we've put out here. But I want to urge you guys to check out his work and keep tuning in. Jordan, I want to thank you for appearing or showing up to share here with us on this episode. And we do look forward to hearing about more of your incredible experiences.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've had many, and again, only reason I'm telling you about these experiences is because I want you to understand. I want people who are hearing me to understand. I'm not special at all, but I am well aware, and I want everyone else to be well aware that the world is not what you think it is. There's something bigger going on behind the scenes around the world. There are strange phenomena that's happening. Strange things are happening. And generally speaking, people know that. They have a gut feeling that something's not right. There's something wrong going on in the world, and we're heading for something. Mankind, generally speaking, is like a train going down the mountainside with no brakes. We're heading for something. We're heading into the future that looks very, very dark and very bleak. Well, that's because it is very dark and very bleak. And you need to wake up because we humans are creatures of habit. And we are what is referred to by science, humans are referred to by science as word-controlled humans. We are controlled by words. Words are very important. How people say things. And when you go into a court, you don't use those words that you use on the street. As a matter of fact, you don't say anything. Let the lawyer or the attorney speak, not you. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why. I mean, I could go on for hours about the dark secrets of courts. The real story about what happens when you go into a court. What is the real mysteries going on behind law and government and courts? Why do you go to court? You play basketball and tennis on a court. Understand? So, and in tennis and in basketball, when you're playing on a court, it's the idea is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. So you bounce the ball from your side, and so you have a team, and it's called a team of lawyers. So your team of lawyers gets up and throws the ball over across the court into their court, put the ball back in the other guy's court. Then that team over there stands up and challenges you and throws it back at you. Then you get up and you throw it back at them, and back and forth between the lawyers. And so it's a game. It's like basketball and tennis. Well, how do you play tennis on a court? You with the racket. Yeah. Oh, really? You play with a racket? And so once you begin to see why the judge wears a black robe, what does that mean? He's the referee. He doesn't care who wins or loses. He's there to make sure that the players are playing according to the laws and regulations. So he doesn't care who wins or loses as long as the lawyers do what they're supposed to. This guy gets up and he says something. Now the other guy has a chance and he gets up and he answers it. And he's put the ball back in your court. So you need to understand how law works, how the system works, how government works. What is a bank? Why do you have to put money in a bank? Because banks are on both sides of a river. It's called a river bank, right? And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency, because your money is called currency, because it's an ebb and flow of energy. It's a current. It comes in and goes out. It comes in and goes out like the tides. And so money is a currency. And so it's once you understand how the world really works, get past all of this interesting dark stuff, and then get into the dark side. All of the strange stuff of religion and cults and what's going on. It's just an extraordinary story of how much people don't know about the world they live in. So that's why I'm happy that you are interested in this kind of subject to bring it to other people, because I'm not really interested in entertaining masses. I'm not an entertainer. I've been in Hollywood all my life, but I'm not an entertainer. Yes, I've done a lot of television shows at NBC, worked on CBS shows. I've been in motion pictures. I've done a lot of stuff, but that's not who I am. What I am is a teacher. I'm here to spark people's imagination to look into dark subjects they didn't even know existed. That's what I do. That's who I am. And I love doing that. I love watching people's eyes light up when they're hearing something for the first time they've never heard before. So that's why I do what I do. I want to help my fellow man to awaken from their lethargic sleep and figure out what's going on this earth. You better wake up, because there are things coming on this earth that you are not prepared for. So that's why I do what I do, and I hope that people will appreciate it.
Well, thank you for doing what you do. And I'm certainly glad that we have this opportunity to continue hearing from you and learning all these incredible and fascinating new things. So, again, thank you so much for your time. And everyone else, be sure to come back and check out our next episode that we're doing on these topics, and go to Jordan's website as well. And we'll see you all soon.